Welcome everyone to our Let's Beat Breast Cancer Mocktails and Mythbusters. And hey Instagram, I do see you over there. So on Insta and on YouTube, fire away with those questions. We're going to monitor the chat and get to some Q&A a little later. But right now, I'm delighted to have with me and to introduce to you Joseph Gonzalez, registered dietitian with the Mayo Clinic, and he has a special interest in nutrition for cancer prevention and survivorship. Welcome, Joseph.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Funk. Good to be here.
I'm so happy you're here because I don't want to be the only one to be a buzzkill today. I need a partner in crime because I got to tell you, the science is in and the science is clear. The more you drink alcohol, the higher your risk of getting not just breast cancer, but many cancers, mouth, throat, esophagus, probably stomach, definitely colon, liver. So we're going to talk, Joseph and I, about a little bit on the science, like why does it have to be true? And then what you can do about it. So I'd say one of the biggest contributors, there's kind of a number of pathways that alcohol interferes with, and they all kind of collide to elevate risk. First of all, as soon as you swallow that ethanol down, it turns into acetaldehyde, which is a potent DNA mutator. And even if you just swish and spit it, I don't know why you'd waste the alcohol that way, but if you did, you've already made some acetaldehyde in your mouth, but your liver makes most of it, and like I said, it's a potent carcinogen. Alcohol increases estrogen levels. 80% of all breast cancers are fed and fueled by estrogen, so that's another mechanism of action for it to mutate things and cause breast cells to grow without control or order. Third step, alcohol can impair the immune system. So those are your cells that are running around like fixing DNA when it goes awry, or getting rid of all the inflammation, and you're impairing its ability to do so whenever you have a drink. And one of the biggest drivers might be that it inhibits an important enzyme called MTHFR, which sounds like a bad word, but it does actually stand for methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, which is taking folic acid from your vitamins or folate from your oh so lovely leafy greens and turning it into its active form, which is methylfolate. And methylfolate babysits DNA as it divides, so it swoops in to fix it if something goes wrong. But when you drink, you knock out that MTHFR. And the other thing that happens just genetically is that 30 to 50% of people have a subfunctional MTHFR enzyme to begin with, and then you drink on top of it, and it's just gonzo for the day, and you're not making that babysitter that you really need. So I'm going to step back and ask Joseph to talk a little bit about the actual risks and what a drink is defined as, and then we'll get a workaround going.
I know, talk about buzzkill. Thanks, Dr. Funk. But the research does not lie. And as Dr. Funk mentioned, there are multiple different kinds of cancers that are attributed to alcohol use, and even just one drink a day. And that's the standard: beer, 1 ounce of hard liquor, 6 ounces of wine. I know some people come to me and say, well, Joseph, I drink red wine. It has that resveratrol. It has those antioxidants in it. So is that okay? And again, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we can get resveratrol from grapes and other bright colored fruits and vegetables. We don't need booze to do it. Any sort of alcohol, 1 drink a day, can increase breast cancer risk by about 10 to 12%. And there's multiple research studies that can support this. So I'm glad we're here today, and I can't wait to see what you're making. I know what I'm making, and we're going to have our mocktails today, that's for sure.
Yes, we are. So we have mocktails at pinklotus.com/kitchen, a whole list of them, and there are more mocktail recipes at the letsbeatbreastcancer.org website. But I wanted to show you my cucumber cocoa aloe cleanser today. It is a sexy, delicious drink, and what I love about our Power Up kitchen is that I can cook in cook mode. So you turn that to on, and then you can cross off the ingredients whenever you're making something, because I inevitably skip ahead and then don't go back, and then I miss a whole ingredient. So I'm gonna run through this bad boy. It's so delicious, it's so pretty. Glad I could get the top off. Okay, so we're gonna start with 1 cup of coconut water. This is not coconut milk. This is the organic one from Trader Joe's. I have a 1/3 cup of just your routine filtered water that I got out of the fridge. And then we have this secret weapon. It's called Aloe Tonic. Aloe Tonic is the cold pressed whole aloe vera leaf, so you're not missing out on any of those anthraquinones and acemannan that are very, very anti-inflammatory. You know how you put aloe on your skin to soothe the sunburn. Imagine if it gets inside your cells. This stuff is pure magic. We're going to take 4 inches of a peeled sliced cucumber. I've got 8 mint leaves here, and then 2 tablespoons of fresh lime juice, which is you get about a tablespoon per lime. So I'm just gonna squeeze these in here. I could have pre-squeezed it, but I thought I had to have some drama going on. All right, and then after this ingredient, we have the final, which is 4 teaspoons of sugar. We're probably gonna talk about sugar later too, but this is a erythritol that I'm using. It's a 0-calorie sweetener. I'd love to get your take a little later, Joseph, on sweeteners. We get a lot of those questions in the cancer world. But there are my 4 teaspoons, and we're gonna put a few ice cubes in there to make it nice and cold. And then I'm gonna blend, and I'm gonna drink it. And I'm gonna feel cool, like it's a real cocktail, because wait till you see it. So this is so cool and refreshing. I don't know where you all are in the country. You can tell us in the chat. I'm in sunny Southern California, and it's a scorcher today. It's 5 p.m. and I'm sweating. All right, I'm gonna garnish with a mint, and look how cool, with an aloe leaf. All right, Joseph, I have my cucumber cooler. What you got over there?
Nothing as amazing as you just made up. So I have something very basic and simple. I don't drink a lot of juice, but when I do, I try to keep it, 100% fruit juice. And what I really like is tart cherry juice. 100% organic tart cherry juice. Doesn't have to be organic, but whatever juice you have, hopefully it's 100%. And I don't use a ton, but I like to add a little bit to just some bubbly water, and I like to put some blueberries in there and a little raspberry, just to get some sweetness going, So I am gonna cheers to you with my tart cherry soda water here with a little raspberry on top.
I love it. Salud to your health.
Salud.
And to yours and to you, IG. That is truly delicious. And it was so easy to make, and I bet you'd spend $18 in a restaurant for that. All right, so we've gone through a little bit about why we want to avoid alcohol, and we've gone through the idea that you don't have to have alcohol to feel like you fit in. Honestly, there is some sort of like body-mind connection between just holding a glass that might be a tumbler like this one or a wine glass and having what's in it not be the issue, right? It's just you're social and feeling like you're in the mix. Okay, so I say we do some myth busting.
Myth bust it.
We're gonna myth bust. So I baited you a second ago by saying I was throwing in a little erythritol for sweetness, otherwise this wouldn't really have any sweetness. Why don't you tell me your initial thoughts on, hey, Joseph, I just had breast cancer. I should avoid all sugar, right? And fruit too, and carbs, like complex carbs.
Well, it's a great question, and I get this a lot. I used to work really heavily in oncology and work with breast cancer patients, and I'd get that question a lot, like, do I need to avoid all sugars and all fruits? The simple answer is no, and that's because all of our cells, even our brain, our muscle, our liver cells, use glucose as energy. So we need glucose to survive. Now, there has been some debate about, well, sugar just fuels cancer cells. Well, what if I take that out? I mean, it's always a good idea to do less sugar in the diet, but there are some really healthful sugars in fruits, natural sugars that have antioxidants that are cancer killers. that have the ability to influence natural killer cells in the body. So whole fruits, whole grains, beans, legumes, those kind of carbohydrates we consider very healthy and very helpful for cancer prevention and even for cancer survivors. We know the research is very strong there to support these kinds of foods.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea that sugar fuels cancer is true, right? Like you're saying, because cancer cells are busy dividing and they even eat more sugar usually than the background cells. That's the basis of the PET CT scan we get for staging. It's a radio-labeled glucose molecule that's injected, and it gets taken up very quickly by cancer cells, more so than the background cells. But as you pointed out, if we successfully eliminated every molecule of sugar from our diets, your body, A, would just break down perfectly good protein to make its own sugar, because your brain is like a sugarholic and demands it, as do all red blood cells. But let's just pretend your body couldn't make it, then yeah, you would have killed the cancer and yourself, because every cell needs sugar. I think some of the bad rap is correct about sugar, and what people might not realize is it's about what Joseph was saying is the combination. So there was a really beautiful study on 8,900 stages 1 through 3 breast cancer survivors. This published in December 2021, and they followed their carbohydrate intake and separated out mortality rates based on how the carbs were consumed. So the highest mortality rate went to consumption of added sugars. So you may add sugar like maple syrup to pancakes or sugar in your coffee, but the food industry loves to add sucrose and high fructose corn syrup and fructose to basically everything packaged. You really have to read labels. You will get surprised. Years in the know on this stuff, and I get surprised. The other day we were having vegan sushi, and it was from just a supermarket. So Justin and I, one of the boys, we bike home, and then we'll stop at this particular market and get sushi, and we stand outside and eat it so that we can bike up this huge hill home. All right, so here we are eating it, and he just flips over the tiny little soy packet that came in the sushi, and it had high fructose corn syrup. I was like, what? Like, I just didn't expect it to sneak in there. It sneaks into ketchup. It's in yogurt, you know, like plant-based yogurts even. So you just really want to read labels. So the highest mortality was in the added sugar. You put the sugar back in the package it came from, i.e. the grape, the apple, and they had no change in mortality. But you extract it into juice, and they had the second highest mortality. So fruit juice was the second group. The third group was refined grains. So Joseph mentioned whole grains. You want to eat whole oats, never instant oatmeal, even organic. That is not good. And the bottom line with all of those foods, so the third was the process. So, you know, brown rice, you take away the bran and the germ, and you end up with white rice. White rice is brown rice without all the fiber and the healthy stuff. But when you have the fiber, the sugar molecules get absorbed so cleanly and slowly and evenly throughout your GI tract that there's never a spike in sugar. And it's never the sugar. It's the spike that happens after in response. It's the insulin spike. And insulin is such a cancer promoter. It directly stimulates breast cancer cells to grow and divide. It eats up this thing that binds IGF-1, and IGF-1 is a massive growth promoter required for all cancer and all type 2 diabetes. So when it takes away the binder of IGF-1, IGF-1 is skyrocketing. Insulin is really inflammatory. So that's really the problem with sugar. It's that it's followed immediately by its parental control insulin that always comes out to tell the sugar what to do. So the moral of that study was to eat whole food plant-based, because the one and only category of food that actually showed a decrease in mortality were the high vegetable consumers. Did you know about that study? You must have. I'll send it to you.
I love what you just said there, and I think you hit the nail on the head, especially with insulin. And we always, we might think of how sugar might feed cancer cells, but what you just said, Dr. Funk, is so true. There was a study done in 2010. It was a consensus report with Dr. Ed Giovannucci from the Institute of Harvard School of Public Health. And he published a study in concert with the American Diabetes Association and the American Cancer Society. And what he found was that just by having diabetes, it almost doubles your risk of certain cancers. Breast cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, and it also increases your risk of pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, and endometrial cancer. So just by eating healthy, just by avoiding becoming overweight or becoming diabetic, we know that we can do a big part by reducing the risk of cancer, by avoiding those diseases altogether. And the last thing I'll say, when you talked about natural sugars, I always think of dates. Dates are so sweet, and there are some products out there that are pulverized dates and dried, and they call it date sugar. It's a whole food. So if you're going to add any sweetener to your food, and you got that sweet tooth that we all do, maybe try some date sugar. Or the erythritol, which is a sugar alcohol that doesn't spike sugars, doesn't spike insulin, like some other kind of refined sugar would.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a comment here on YouTube about coconut nectar / sugar, but I recall a phenomenal video from our favorite person online to tease out the science, Dr. Michael Greger, looking at sugars, and date sugar, as you said, is a whole food, so that was, they had the least glycemic index, the least spike in sugar, and shortly behind that was molasses and maple syrup and honey, and then everything else from down after that was kind of bad. So take it from Michael. Should we ask, why is alcohol bad? I pass. Oh, well, Sherry, you can watch the replay. It'll be online, and you can hear all about the buzzkill that Joseph and I delivered. All right, so I had some cocktails for a night or two every few months. Should I worry or feel guilty as a breast cancer survivor? You know, cocktails or wine a night or two every few months, so you're talking tops like 8 drinks a year. The American Cancer Society says if you choose to drink, women should never have more than 1 drink a day, men 2 drinks a day. I think that's aiming high. I'm not sure exactly where the recommendations come from. Maybe all the studies that have what's called the J-curve phenomenon that lumps the non-drinkers in with people who are so sick they can't drink anymore. So it makes the drinker who has like a drink a day look pretty good in comparison to that non-drinking group, because it contains all these people who needed to stop. Anyway, so absolutely not. Do not worry about that. You should cheers to your thrivership. I think, in my opinion, you could happily have a drink or two every few months and not have any harm in the outcome. Let's see. Ooh, Melanie, this is a great question. I have stage 4 HER2 metastatic breast cancer. What can I do to keep estrogen away? Oh, I have so many great ideas for you. I have YouTubes with PowerPoint presentations all about how to eat anti-estrogenically. I have my top 18 foods. If you go to our kitchen, the smoothie that I have, the antioxidant smoothie, every single ingredient in there has been shown in the science and research to decrease estrogen, to decrease cancer division rates, to improve outcomes. So please have a look. And if you aren't aware of this drug called Enhertu, you might want to ask your doctor about that. Just keep it in your back pocket as a backup plan in case disease starts to progress. But I wish you all the best. But I've got tons of advice for lowering estrogen. And it's all in the food, and it's delicious. It's not weird food. And someone asked where to get this aloe tonic. You get it at Pink Lotus Elements, which is online. All right, so, I almost said the word I was thinking. I said so, but I'm going to say soy. Joseph, soy has such a bad rap, right? Should we continue on with that rap?
You know, it has such a bad rap, and I'd like to try to clear the air. And first off, what a great question from the ones you mentioned. And I'll say this, we don't beat people up for what they eat or what they drink. We all have life issues, and it happens. And so it's important to just do the best we can. And when we're dealing with a diagnosis as tough as cancer, we really need to give ourselves a pat on the back and get some support. And that's what I hope we're here for. With that said, going into soy products, every long-living population on this planet uses some type of legume as a base and a staple of their food. A soybean is just a staple in Asia. A chickpea or garbanzo bean is a staple in the Mediterranean region in Europe. maybe black beans, pinto beans, Central South America. These are healthy foods. These are healthy legumes. Now, soy, or edamame, a natural soybean, is very healthy. And in fact, women who eat more soy products like edamame and tofu and soy milk earlier on in their life, in their teen years, have a much less risk of developing breast cancer as they get older. So there's this big fear that soy might have these phytoestrogens, phyto meaning plant estrogens, but it's just not that simple. Yes, they might have these phytoestrogens, but they don't necessarily mimic the endogenous estrogen that we have in our body. They're very weak molecules. And if anything, the research is finding that these weak phytoestrogens can latch themselves to an estrogen receptor, thereby blocking endogenous estrogens, our own estrogens, from attaching to that receptor. So if anything, whole foods, whole soy foods, do us a favor and decrease the risk of cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what happens. So the science shows that you actually have two receptors for estrogen in your body. Alpha is on the cancer cell, and beta is hit by the phytoestrogens like genistein and daidzein in soy with 1,600% more affinity. And what it does when it's turned on, beta, is it shuts alpha down, number one. Number two, it goes out into your fat cells and shuts off an enzyme called aromatase, which is converting steroids from your adrenal gland into more estrogen, so it's lowering estrogen. And then, as Joseph said, if it happens to meander its way over into an alpha receptor, it has like 1/100th the signal of real estrogen. So it's effectively acting like that drug tamoxifen, just sitting there like a car in the parking spot you want. And your own estrogen can't get in to stimulate that cancer, and without its fuel, the cancer cell peters out and dies. At least that's the theory. Turns out to be true. So as Joseph also said, every single human study done looking at soy consumption and breast cancer outcomes shows a positive relationship. So in other words, the more soy consumed, the less breast cancer occurrence, recurrence, and death. There's a funny, suspiciously recurring number. The number is almost always 32% drop, just as an average. Again, if you look at the studies, it keeps recurring. But there are many studies now, and they've all poured out since 2009. I think truly the bad rap came from probably this particular mouse study, like the shot heard around the world against soy, because they grafted breast cancers onto mice, which I'm against animal experiments, but it was done, so let's learn this lesson. When the mice ate the soy, the tumors grew. Turns out we metabolize isoflavones dramatically differently than mice. Sometimes we're like them, this time we were not. So that's where I think I'll start it.
Yeah, and Dr. Funk, were they feeding mice edamame, or were they feeding them large amounts of soy isoflavone?
Soy isoflavone, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a whole food. Yeah, it was the most.
Right.
So anyway.
Just bizarre. And that got out on the internet, and it lit like wildfire. And now, soy is related to cancer. It's just not that simple. And we're not mice. I hope I don't have to convince anybody here today that you're not a mouse.
Well, I think this is a natural seg to talk about. So it's true that about 94% of all soy produced in America is GMO soy. So how important is it that we eat organic?
I get that question a lot, Dr. Funk, and I will say, if you can afford it and you can do organic, that's great. When it comes to soy products, most of the soy, especially if you get some like tofu or some soy milk, does come from non-GMO sources, so you should be fine there. But if we lump into this category of I need to eat organic, I think it's always better, especially better for the workers who are farming in the fields, who aren't exposed to all those pesticides and insecticides. So it is better, but we know that the data of just eating conventional produce, there's more benefit than risk to eating our fruits and vegetables. It doesn't have to be organic, but again, if you want to go that route, totally fine.
Yeah, so what I hear you saying is you would rather I eat a big cup of non-organic strawberries and broccoli than a juicy, big fat organic beef burger.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, I
Does the
think
benefit outweigh any risk?
the parts per million of the pesticides and insecticides, weed killer that get into your system have been studied and seem to be of such low levels that they aren't mutagenic. However, I will say, especially when it comes to soy, I will not eat GMO soy. Most of it is fed to the animals. So if you're eating the animals, then you're getting the soy that way. But the glyphosate that comes from Roundup that's dumped on these crops has been shown in petri dishes to rev up the growth of breast cancer cells. So you put them in a petri dish, drip a little glyphosate, and boom, they take off with proliferation. So minimizing glyphosate by eating organic would be advisable for my breast patients out there. Let's see. Oh, I have a myth that I would like to bust just because I like busting it, and I think it's pervasive even among the medical community. And that myth is, oh, you know what, honey, breast cancer doesn't run in your family, so you're not really high risk for that. Like, so false. First of all, only 5 to 10% of all breast cancer comes from inherited genetic mutations, such as BRCA or PALB2, CHEK2. And second of all, everybody diagnosed with breast cancer, only 13% of them have a single first-degree relative with breast cancer. About 80% of them don't have any relatives with breast cancer. So this isn't, for the most part, a genetic thing, a family thing. For the most part. I'm not here to minimize that if you do carry a genetic mutation, that carries some serious elevation in risk and mandates some risk-reducing strategies and increased surveillance, et cetera. But if you're a woman and if you're getting older, you're at risk for breast cancer. So I just want to dispel that idea that if it's not in your family, you're not high risk. We kind of all are as women and aging and living in this world of so many animal products, which brings me, and I'll pitch now if you forgot why we're here. It's the month of October, and I'd like you all to remember to go to the letsbeatbreastcancer.org website and sign up to take the 4-pronged approach, the challenge to beating breast cancer by consuming a whole food plant-based diet, maintaining ideal body weight, exercising regularly, and limiting alcohol. When you take that challenge online, you get a free e-cookbook, you get entered into a bunch of free giveaways, including a Vitamix coming up, and we send you newsletters each week. We invite you to these Zooms. We have our last one next week. Don't miss it. So go to Let's Beat. I wish there were some sort of sign like that just spelled it out for me. Where do I go? letsbeatbreastcancer.org. We have a ton of resources on that site for you to help you engage in these 4 steps more naturally. pinklotus.com/powerup, or just go to pinklotus.com. You'll see lower left, there's a whole community bursting with excitement to meet and greet you, an online community. We have local chapters, 25 throughout the country in major cities, that are literally free, and they just are there. The local chapters hike, bike, run, walk, cook, camp. And November 7th, even if you don't live in LA, join my LA group, because we're gonna fast for 5 days together. It's gonna be fun. I get kind of miserable when I do these 5-day fasts, so I wanted company. So please join and do it with me. We're gonna do Prolon, if you know what that is. We're going to have a special treat for you right now. Breast Cancer Thriver. Oopsies. I forgot I had the book and I wanted to show it, but we have Karen Crisp and her husband, Dr. Daryl Crisp, here with a special message.
Hello, everyone. We are so happy to join you. We want to send warm aloha to all of you from the island of Molokai, Hawaii, and we're grateful to be with you this evening. When I first learned that I most likely had malignant breast cancer, the day I learned that, I made a very significant choice. We'd already been practicing healthy lifestyle with a whole food plant-based diet and such, but one thing that I was still clinging to was having a glass or 2 of wine most evenings as kind of a way to chill. So the day I got the likely diagnosis, I told Daryl on our way home from the doctor's office, today's the day I'm quitting alcohol. And I had known that there was research behind it. I wasn't familiar at the time with all the particulars, but when we got home, Daryl did a deeper dive. He's my kind of medical Sherlock Holmes as a former physician, and he did a deep dive into the literature. And so Daryl, share with the group what you, at least one little nugget of what you learned.
Well, I think it's important to know that there is a persisting myth out there that alcohol in moderation is okay. And in fact, it may even be able to reduce the risk of cancer. And that is the furthest from the truth that we can imagine. There is no safe amount of alcohol in preventing breast cancer. If you look at the studies, and there have been many, there have been studies that have been single studies, combined studies, meta-analyses, and basically what it comes down to is if you drink alcohol, the more you drink, the higher the risk of breast cancer. If you do 1 drink a day, your risk is around 30%. If you drink 2 drinks a day, your risk is up to 30%. If you drink 4 drinks a day or 3 drinks a day, your risk is up to 40%. So it doesn't go away. And it's a consistent finding that alcohol is worsening for breast cancer. Studies are coming out all the time. Recently, there was a study that was done in South Korea that looked at it from the standpoint that was a little different than most. It looked at people that were already on alcohol who stopped their alcohol or reduced it, and it definitely showed a decrease in the risk of breast cancer. So the studies are very, very strong in that direction.
I think on the first percentage, you meant 10%,
Oh,
right?
10%, correct,
Right.
correct.
But 10% with 1 drink, 30% with 2, up to 40% with 3 drinks.
That's
So
correct.
the bottom line is we're here to help banish that myth, to help bust that myth that alcohol in moderation is okay, when really what we're looking for is significantly reducing, if not totally eliminating, which would be ideal. So we're here to toast to everyone's health with our favorite mocktail, which is non-alcoholic mimosas.
Cheers.
With cheers, yes, with just some orange juice and your favorite fizzy water,
Correct.
Perrier or whatever. So here's to everyone's good health. And also we wanted to mention, if you're interested in obtaining a copy
Oh,
of
what
our
a great
book,
message. We thank
Banish
the
Breast
Crisps.
Cancer, you can go to the Instagram pages of Physicians Committee or Pink Lotus and enter to win a copy of the book. And so with that, we'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Funk, and thank you for having us. Cheers.
All right, terrific. We thank the Crisp for that message. I wanted to answer a question from Marilyn that I just saw about coffee. Can I have 1 cup of coffee a day? Joseph, what do you think about coffee and breast cancer, if anything?
What I think about coffee and breast cancer is I don't believe there's any link. And I do know that based on some research, especially research coming from the American Institute for Cancer Research, showing that coffee has an impact on liver cancer in a good way. I'm a coffee drinker. I spent many years up in Washington State, so I'm kind of a coffee snob. I like it dark, I like it black, a couple cups a day, just fine. What do you
I agree.
think about coffee?
Yeah, so interestingly, the research shows it doesn't have any effect whatsoever on breast cancer until you start drinking 5 cups a day, and then you have a dramatic decrease in breast cancer. 5 cups a day. So I don't know if that's good for your blood pressure or everybody around you listening to you talk like this, but caffeine can cause breast cysts and breast pain, but neither of those things is cancer. And so if your breasts don't hurt, it doesn't hurt to have coffee. Now, careful what you put in that coffee. There's a difference between coffee and some sort of syrupy mocha drink with whipped cream, vegan or not, on top. So, you know, you want to watch the fat and calorie content, but just black coffee would be more than okay to drink. It would be advisable. All right, guys, I want to just remind you, mark those calendars. I will be here live for our last Thursday. Broken heart. But next week, we'll be talking survivorship with Donna Green Goodman, or as I like to call it, being a thriver. So don't miss it. And, ooh, did I hear anything like digging? Like ding, ding, ding? That's the sound of a giveaway. It is happening right now at the Pink Lotus Power Up Instagram, at Dr. Christy Funk Instagram, and at Physicians Committee Instagram pages. So be sure to head over there right after this program to win. Joseph, are you ready for how cool this gift is?
A new car. No, I'm just.
Okay, now it doesn't sound nearly as cool as I thought it was going to. Thanks, Joseph. No, but it's fun. There's a do-it-yourself mocktail kit. It has recipes and ingredients to make 3 really fun mocktails from the Let's Beat Breast Cancer program. We have Banish Breast Cancer, the new inspiring memoir written by Reverend Karen Crisp and Daryl Crisp, MD. And, of course, we have a Let's Beat Breast Cancer t-shirt, which is my fave. And if you want to buy and own any of these super fab t-shirts that I've been wearing all month long, everywhere I go, even at FedEx, did you see that? I just head over to Shopify. They are there, and all proceeds go to the letsbeatbreastcancer.org campaign. All right, I would encourage you guys to make some mocktails in the next week or 2. Post them on Instagram. Please tag moi at Dr. Christy Funk and at Physicians Committee and hashtag Let's Beat Breast Cancer, because that is what we're going to be doing. So don't forget, see you next week. Head over to Insta and join for the chance to win an awesome basket. And Joseph, are there any final words you'd like to share? If people want to get a hold of you, how can we do that?
Just continue to reach out to Pink Lotus and the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I love these sites because one word you mentioned, Dr. Funk, is that free. We shouldn't have to spend thousands of dollars to get some good, sound nutrition advice. All we want for folks, all I want for folks is to feel better, do better, and if they're battling something as serious as cancer, get the right information. Work with your team of oncologists, work with your dietitians. We're all in this together. So thank you for saying that, and it's such a pleasure to be here today.
Oh, it was an honor to have you on. So thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'll see you next Thursday.
Thanks, guys.